Everybody, Matt Gear here for the Geek Pride cast on this Monday evening. I apologise for the mess behind me, but I've got ADHD. That's my excuse, and I'm going to keep at it. I had a moment of, I'm going to get everything out and try and organise it, and just left it there. So I literally just got a mixture of everything that's just sort of on there. But I finally got a helmet for my cosplay. So he's my Imperial Trooper.
Imperial Trooper.
You know the Imperial Guard. You know the red. It's from the it's a Crimson Empire sort of kind of. It's from the Crimson Empire. It's comic book series, Dark Horse comic book series, with some slight changes and stuff, but it looks pretty cool. And I got some new lightsaber sounds and stuff like that. So there. Anyways.
How we roll off topic.
Anyways.
You took a minute. Perfect.
With me tonight, as always, we have my co-hosts, Peter Ray Allison.
Good evening, everyone.
And Jonjo Cosgrove.
Hello, buddies.
And our second guest of this good year, back again. We've got George from Three Seal Studios.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for having me. God, when was it? Was it good? It was good fun.
Yes.
It seems like a long time ago now.
Yes, it was indeed. Okay. So, George, for everybody who wasn't with us the last time, who are you? What do you do? What's your thing?
Well, my name is George Francis Vickers. I am the studio lead at Three Seal Studios, which is a teeny tiny 3-person indie TTRPG design studio based in Manchester in the UK. I'm an Essex boy, born and bred, been in Manchester for, what are we now? We're 2025 now, aren't we? So this is going to be my 9th year here in Manchester now. And
still a
baby. I am the creator and designer of Mappa Mundi, an exploration and ecology RPG, which is a non-combat, completely unique. Well, I say completely unique. It's an original system, zero combat, exploration and ecology RPG, where you play as chroniclers who are essentially adventuring academics going out into a world parallel to our own that is just emerging from 100 years of ecological disaster, and your job is to go out and reconnect the world primarily by finding, documenting, and interacting with its monsters, creatures, and cultures.
So we had a rather long conversation about it last time.
We did.
Whereabouts are you with it at this moment in time?
There was a couple of things we had a really big conversation with about last time.
Yeah, we did.
We were talking about. So I think we spent the first half an hour talking about ADHD, which you'll be happy to know, Matt. I have now got my official diagnosis.
Oh, nice. We can have a conversation about that. Yeah.
We can have another conversation about that. Yeah. No, I got that. That's out of the way now. But with Mappa Mundi, we are launching on Kickstarter as of the time of recording a week tomorrow. So February the 4th, we launch on Kickstarter.
Awesome.
Which is very exciting and also completely terrifying. But I'm balancing fear and excitement quite well at the moment. So we launch, as of today, we launch in 8 days' time. In terms of where we are with Mappa Mundi, the book is done. It's finished. In terms of all the writing, the editing, and the layout, it's done. We're just waiting on the last couple of bits of artwork, which Joel, our artist, and one of my co-owners is still working on, and he will be working on that as basically up until the day the Kickstarter finishes, which is March the 4th. And assuming we fund, which I hope that we do, we will be going to print literally the next day. And our plan is to have books in people's hands across most of the world by June. So we've been busy boys since June. But yeah, it's the book's in a really good place. We're really, really happy with it.
Have you given yourself more? Because that's most Kickstarters.
Most Kickstarters is a very tight turn.
That's a very tight turnaround, and now that shows admirable confidence. But have you said you'll get it in June, and then, or have you sort of given yourself a bit of wiggle room just on the off chance?
We have said, so publicly we're saying we are aiming for June.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, because the book is done, it's going to be done by the day the Kickstarter finishes. Obviously, most Kickstarters, the game is half done. It's not even fully written yet. It's definitely not fully laid out yet. The artwork almost all times there's only been like 10%, 15% done to give enough artwork for the Kickstarter and stuff. People have, a game not quite to start, but really to kind of get even into the middle stages and then finish and then start thinking about production and stuff. For us, our production is lined up. Our slot with our printer is lined up for, March 5th. All of our print files are going to be being approved during February. So during the Kickstarter, our print files are getting finally approved. And so, like I said, if we fund, then literally the press starts running on March 5th. And then it's a case, obviously, we've got fulfillment and shipping to do. But we're fulfilling most of our stuff. We're fulfilling from the UK. We're printing in Turkey, not in China like a lot of other places are. So we're printing in Turkey, which means that's like 10 days road freight from Turkey to the UK. Obviously, we're also fulfilling some from the States, so that's going to require sea freight, but that's not too long either. So the idea is that we take March and most of April to do the actual physical printing and manufacturing. We get books into the UK in May, and into the US by May, but probably a week or two later. And then we just literally, as soon as the books hit the fulfillment center, they will start going out the next day.
Why did you choose Turkey?
Definitely. Why did we choose Turkey? So this was an interesting one because, my deadline for us as a studio was that I wanted to have books available for sale at UK Games Expo if possible. Now, obviously, UK Games Expo is the last weekend in May. I think it's May 30th this year, May 30th to June 1st.
We'll be there.
I know you will, and you'll be seeing me there. And fingers crossed, you'll be seeing Mappa Mundi in the flesh.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, why did we choose Turkey? So, because so I needed to give us as long as we could to get the book finished, because what we are doing, it gives me the idea of having people's money in our business bank account while we are still finishing a book and all the potential delays that come along with that gives me nightmares. It genuinely terrifies me. And it's pressure for anyone, right? Anyone who runs a Kickstarter, this is kind of the default way of doing things, is you fund the Kickstarter, you then finish the game. I wanted for us, especially because it's our first project, I wanted it to be a case that we wanted to show our community and our backers that we were confident in our game, that we had taken the personal risk on to get it finished, and that what we needed their support for was the physical production of it. And so the other model of let's get the game into a position where we fund it and then we'll finish it with the funding, that's great, works for other people, works for a lot of people, doesn't really work for me. So I wanted us to make sure we had the game finished first. And so as a consequence of that, I needed, February was kind of like, in order to have games potentially ready for UK Games Expo, February is the latest we can crowdfund. And freight shipping from China it takes a long time. I mean, whether you're going to the US or the UK, when we're going to both, it takes a long time.
And of course, you've got the Chinese New Year at the moment, so that's going to cause a massive backlog.
Exactly. There's huge backlogs going on with Chinese New Year, like Lunar New Year, not just in terms of physical production, but also in terms of freight. Like getting freight into and out of China at the moment is very difficult. And so also because Mappa Mundi is like it's a very environmentally conscious game. The closer to our fulfillment centers we can produce that game,
of course,
the lower the carbon footprint is, right? Yeah. And so what we did is we started looking at. So China was my original plan. We were going to produce in China, and then I started talking to friends in the industry about what the kind of European infrastructure was like, and I had conversations with lots of different excellent printers in Europe. The problem that we found was, because Mappa Mundi also has the Journey deck, the set of 70 tarot cards that come with it, we have to get a book printed, but we also have to get a deck of cards printed, and we have to have a box printed to hold all those things together. And a lot of the places that we would have gone to if we were just doing, a lot of the places that were suggested to us because they're experts with books, but they themselves couldn't source, they couldn't print the cards, they couldn't do the boxes, so they'd have to source them from other places. And that's what we thought we were going to do for a while. We were going to get a box from one place, a book from another, and a card set from one of together.
Mm.
And then another friend in the industry who I have a lot of respect for, who really knows manufacturing inside out, back to front. He was like, oh, actually, you should go and look to this company in Turkey. They're called Mega Basim. Go and have a look at them. And I spoke to them. They came up with the best solution for for holding everything together. The quality they've got is incredibly high. The prices are also really competitive, and they can do all in one place. They can do book, box, cards, pack it all together. They've designed the solution to hold the cards inside the box as well, without them moving around. And their print quality is incredibly high. And so they are our kind of one-stop shop, and we're really happy to be working with them. So yeah, that's kind of why Turkey. It's depending on whose definition you look at, it's Europe or Europe adjacent, so it's close. The technology and the skill are there in the same way that they are in other countries. The infrastructure is there, and they're really quick, and they're really good.
The book that you've got on your website, I'll screen capture, people can see it, on the Mappa Mundi page, is that a prototype of what they're going to get?
So yeah, I mean, if I can, so this is the thing, we're moving house in a, so like you can see my shelves are pretty empty behind us, so I don't have the prototype with me.
Yeah.
But so the physical book that people can see on the website is the pre-release guide that we had printed up, but it's the same cover. The final product is, it's the same artwork for the cover, slightly like the kind of graphic design has been slightly redone and stuff. But yeah, so it's the book. It's a 220-page book, a 70-card journey deck, and it comes in this beautifully illustrated, like full color print box as well.
So obviously we talked about the mechanics, and it's very different from your sort of the last time you were on. It was very different than from your generic hack and slash RPG.
Yeah.
So again, we've got a few people watching now, and there'll be other people who obviously hadn't listened to the last podcast. So do you want to sort of talk us through the sort of the mechanics and how it differs from, say, D&D or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the obviously the big difference. There's no combat in Mappa Mundi. Like that's I suppose the fundamental difference is there is no combat. There's no rules for combat. It's not something you can engage in.
Yeah, I mean, I read through the rules from the PDF, and it's literally only about 10, 20 pages of system.
So the core rules now take up 6 pages.
Even less now. Oh wow.
Yeah. So the core rules in the final book, I managed to get the core rules down to six pages. Now, admittedly, that's all text. There's no illustrations in that.
Yeah.
I'm like, we've got over 150 illustrations in a 220-page book. not to mention the journey deck you get as well.
Right.
And if anyone is going to have to sit and read some text-heavy pages, I kind of figure it should be the core rules. So the core rules take up 6 pages, and then we have a narrator's guide as well, which is kind of like direct advice to people running the game about different things they can do. That takes up, I think, 8 or 10 pages. But in terms of what the players actually need, there's a how-to-play section that is one page, one single page, and that includes the equipment to play with. So it's tight. It's obviously I'd say this designer, but it's tight. It's elegant. It's easy to understand. You only have the players only ever have 4 dice, either D4s, D6s, D8s, or D12s, and they get upgraded over time because you level up your dice, not your character. The narrator doesn't have to roll dice at all. The narrator has no need to roll dice because there's no combat. There's no need to worry about like balance issues.
So there's no tests. You're not testing against.
There are tests. There are tests for players to take. So but you're not rolling off against the narrator. So
you're running against yourself, aren't you?
And the world around you. Yeah. So Mappa Mundi, the characters in Mappa Mundi are known as Chronicle. Like I said earlier, they're kind of like adventure aspects, right? They are normal people who have been trained to do a job, and they're going out into a world that's dangerous, sometimes hostile, certainly difficult to get around. And so we've boiled down basically everything one would ever need to do in the world to 4 abilities. So you've got exploration, observation, deduction, and traversal. So traversal is the ability to move through the world. Observation is the ability to see and understand the world. Deduction is the ability to kind of study and like puzzle out the world, and exploration is the drive to go out and explore. And so basically everything boils down to one of those four. So when you're making a test, I don't know, if you want to jump over a ravine, you're going to make a traversal roll, but you're not rolling against the DM. The DM's going to, the narrator is going to set a difficulty value and tell you what that is. All the rolls are open, the target difficulties are open, and if you roll above that with your traversal dice, you've jumped over the ravine. If you roll lower than that, then you've not. But we also have narrative skills as well. So we have each of our four character types. We call them licenses. So you have archivists, diviners, fixers, and guardians. Each one has their own like skill path. It's like a tech tree. But the skills on there are narrative. Then they have names and they have short descriptions, and it is up to the player to advocate for the use of those skills and interpret what they can and can't do with them. So, for example, we have a skill called Soft Steps, which is a Guardian traversal skill. Now, if you needed to sneak into a building or past a monster, or you were trying not to be caught in a crowd, the narrator might say to you, right, you need to give me a traversal roll to try and sneak into this building. But the player playing the Guardian could be like, wait a minute, I've got Soft Steps, and the way that I interpret that is my guy, is good at sneaking around, is good at making themselves unheard. And if the narrator thinks, actually, yeah, that's a really good explanation, you don't need to make the roll. If the narrator is like, okay, yeah, fine, but this place that you're trying to sneak into is being actively watched, you can use the skill and I'll reduce the difficulty of the test you need to make. So you combine the two of them. Mm-hmm. Or if it's like, if you needed to sneak into a place, but you wanted to use, you wanted to use a skill like Bulwark, which is like stopping guardians getting knocked about, that skill's not going to make any difference there. So the narrator's like, no, just make me. So Mappa Mundi is a narrative-first game. At its core, it's narrative-first. Collaborative storytelling game that encourages player skill rather than character skill. Like, you can't just look to your character sheet and be like, I'm going to make a perception roll. If you think there are traps, you need to work out how to find them. So it doesn't hold your hand, but it doesn't need to hold your hand. Simple, intuitive narrative system.
Yeah, I find that we've done, well, I've done, in our D&D campaign, we did it wasn't a one shot because there was like four episodes of it where it was basically a small subsect of we called it the nobodies, and they were like effectively not even level ones. They were just like nobodies within a thing. Something was going to happen and that would affect the rest of the campaign for the other guys, and it was because they'd done something in this area and I wanted to have consequences, so I made them those people who had to deal with the consequences.
I like that.
And because they had no powers, they were just bad. They were all bad at everything. I made them all really sort of like they just didn't trust each other. There was a lot of stuff going on, and because of that, they couldn't just rely on their character sheet. They had to sort of they had to sort of go around it, and I find that gets a lot out of people because they're having to think outside the box more. They're having to sort of argue like you said, well, I'm going to use this to sort of get through this, and if I go, oh yeah, that's cool, really cool, yeah, you can do that, that's fine and stuff, and and to the point where when we went out of that and they ended that thing, and they're now in their characters, I currently have this anti-magic field all over the sort of area they're in, so they can't do a lot of stuff. So again, they're having to do more storytelling to get their way around what's happening. And I think, don't get me wrong, I like a good bit of combat, and there's probably going to be a hefty bit of combat in the next session, but it's just like, it just sort of like, there's something that's really good about them going deep on the RP and sort of really sort of talking their way around things and not focusing on just like, well, I've got this spell which is going to break everything, or I'm going to do this and stuff, and it's just boring when because I did one where I'd spent ages. I built this. We had this bad guy from one of the main sessions. I had it all built up. They had the sword that they got, so it was meant to deal with him easily and stuff with that sort of things. Because I stupidly forgot to give him legendary resistances. One of the guys kind of went, "Oh, I banish him," and I was just like, "Shit." Can't do anything about that. He's gone, and all that just kind of went, and I was just off one. Like we fudged it slightly, but it was still a bit sort of like it wasn't great, story wise. Whereas the best ones have always been the ones where they're telling the story themselves. They're sort of trying to work a way around things. There's not a lot of dice being rolled. It's just them sort of explaining their ways around things. So yeah, narrative storylines. I really enjoy, and I think you get the best sort of games when you incorporate them into your games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was when me, you, and Pete were chatting before. Like, I think I said something along the lines of, like, D&D turns the DM into basically a random number generator. Like, the reason why it's relatively easy to solo D&D is because you can use an emulator, an artificial DM because you just need someone to roll numbers for you and maybe to throw a couple of prompts at you. And like, don't get me wrong, there are far deeper ways of D&D than that. But if you can replace your human narrator or your human DM telling you stories with something that's just going to spit numbers out at you, that suggests something about the fundamental design of the system. And again, it works. It's fine. Like, it's, if it's your thing, it's great. I think partly for me, the fact that D&D wasn't my first RPG experience is kind of like, it's meant that kind of retrospective, I don't look at it in the same people whose first game it was.
Yeah, you don't have that nostalgia.
Exactly, and I look at Warhammer second in that way because it was my first game and I absolutely loved it. But even like that was, that's like an old school game. But it was the GM that we were playing with was so rich with the storytelling and allowed us to really take part in that. And so what Mappa Mundi is trying.
But to be fair, like the second edition of Warhammer was a really dense into the lore. You picked up the book. There was so much lore there that it's a very easy game to kind of really delve into the lore into it. It gives you all the GMs. This is the lore of the game.
Yeah,
and that it kind of springboards the stories.
And I wouldn't expect anything else from a GW product, right? You think like they've got their entire publishing range full of lore and stuff like that. Like it doesn't surprise me with that at all. But like that was my first TTRPG experience, not D&D, and so as a consequence, I think maybe I'm like, I don't think I'm overly critical of D&D. Like again, I've played it and I've enjoyed it. I've run campaign player, I've enjoyed it, but like it just doesn't scratch anywhere near enough of the itches that I want a TTRPG to scratch. And so as a consequence, when I started designing it, for about 2 days, I flirted with the idea of Mappa Mundi being a 5e supplement. And then I was like, no, like absolutely not. It's just, it can't do D. And this is the thing you see, there's like, there's communities, there's on Facebook called I'm begging you to play another TTRPG. And occasionally you'll see screenshots, people like, I want to do this thing, like this TV show or this thing or this style of game. How is there a D&D supplement for it? And everyone's just like, no, but there's 100 other RPGs that do exactly what you want to do without you having to work. Why would you try and put D&D? Why would you try and use D&D to do that? And Mappa Mundi is a game that is explicitly zero combat. It's explicitly about exploration. It's explicitly about meeting and engaging and interacting with monsters. So I designed a system to do that. So Mappa Mundi, and because it has an ideology, clear ideology, very clear point it's trying to, well, not that it's trying to make, that it's built on a very particular point and understanding of the world. And D&D is kind of antithetical to that view of the world. D&D it's a war game simulator. That's how it started, right? The original version of like the proto D&D. This is how you simulate combat in a medieval world.
It was basically a unit level, combat simulator for in a fantasy world.
So why am I going to choose? I'm not going to choose that, like, which is, and that is still so in the DNA. I'm not going to choose that for my game. But like, returning to that point about player skill versus character skill, that is one of the things that like the older TTRPGs that were going back to the 70s and 80s, where player skill is more important than character skill. Your character does things for you, and you can embody the character, but like that, it's, again, I think the old versions of D&D or whatever, AD first edition or whatever, the piece of equipment you'd carry with you, guaranteed beyond your weapon, was a 10-foot pole. So you could poke the floor in front of you to check for traps. Now, you roll a perception roll, and you've just perceived traps to be there. It's taken, like, overly complex character sheets can look really beautiful, but like if you could just look to your character sheet for anything that could possibly occur, you've alienated the player from the game. And so what Mappa Mundi tries to do is to strip it back as simple as it can possibly be. 4 abilities, 1 dice per ability, open rolling, you know, and then narrative skills, and that's fundamentally what it boils down to. And why we were able to get the core rules down to 6 pages. Like at first, I was like, I'm going to give myself 10 pages to do it, and as I was writing them out, like and putting them on the layout, I was like, oh, I'm not even going to need that much space. I've got more space for the narrators, robbing Peter to pay Paul in a sense, but like you know, the fact that we can say, here is a 220-page book, the rules are this much of it, all the rest of it is things that are going to help you run the game and things that are going to enjoy the game. And like, I don't know how you guys feel about this, I'd be interested to hear it, but one of the deeper and deeper I've gone into the industry now, obviously as a designer and a publisher, the more I've come across this idea of like player-facing rules versus, we'll call them GM-facing rules. So for us, it would be narrators and stuff. And like, I wasn't aware of this term when I started designing, but it's very, very clear to me that I design GM-facing rules. Like, the players, in my mind, a player ideally should be able to turn up to a session not knowing anything about a game.
Yeah.
And reasonably quickly, ideally within minutes, but certainly within half an hour, know what they're doing. Especially if they've got a pre-rolled character. Like, I've got this new TTRPG group that I'm playing with in person, which is great because it's ages. And it's me and a couple of other designers based here in Manchester. And we played Paranoia on Saturday.
All right,
and
awesome.
it was really fun. It was really, really fun. And Chris McDowell from Bastion Land, so he designed Into the Odd and Electric Bastion Land, Mythic Bastion Land. He GM'd it. And someone had sent a message earlier on in the week saying, do I need to build a character? Do I need to read the rules? And he's like, actually, the less you know about this, the better. And like within 20 minutes we were playing, he explained, he gave us a brief explanation of as we were playing the game. And we played a 6-hour session with none of us ever had rules. Chris had read the rules, but none of us had ever read the rules before, played it before. And that's kind of what I want. Like, I want a player to be, if you're running a game, the onus is on you to do the prep. But even then, I want that prep to be relatively minimal. It's so difficult getting players around a table as it is. Like, I've sat with new players and built their D&D characters with them, and it's taken hours just to build the character. And then I've said, by the way, there's this whole player's handbook that you should probably read. Like, that's so difficult. It's so difficult to do. So
I've been playing D&D for years now, and we've been doing the campaign we're on our 4th year now, I think. And I can honestly say I don't, thankfully I've got 2 other DMs who are sort of playing the game now as well, but I don't, look, I did it because it was more, I could do the basic rules and then just homebrew everything. And that for me was the way it is. It was very much the rule of cool. We had some basic rules that you abided by. Everybody else was new. We were all new because we were doing it lockdown. We basically went, these are your basic tenets and what we want. Crits always succeed. Crit fails always fail. Something might happen. Yeah. We've always had that, even though it's not one of the main rules. And we just sort of carried it through. And, the rest of it has literally just been sort of, homebrew, we're going to allow that. If somebody turns around, well, that's not the rule. Well, tough. That's not the way it is. We're not playing it that way. And you just sort of, you enjoy it. As long as the story's good, as long as everybody's engaged with it, you go along with it. And so I do not know. There's a lot of people out there who really, really know the rules, but it's just like, in my opinion, D&D is a broken game. It's not a balanced game in any way, shape, or form. And if you play it to the book, you are going to break. It's going to break, and you're going to have some stupidly overpowered guys who are going to kill the game. So it's just like, I don't know why you would ever want to play it vanilla without sort of kind of tinkering with it, because it's just not going to be an enjoyable experience. And I've seen a lot of things, people complaining about people being rules lawyers and stuff about it, and it's just like, well, it's what, you're not trying to win the game, you're trying to
win the game.
You're not, that's the whole, you're not meant to win D&D, you're meant to, it's a story.
My worry with that is that people bounce off it, right? That people pick up D&D as the only RPG probably that they've ever heard of.
Yeah,
like we're talking about people new to TTRPGs. They pick up Dungeons and Dragons because it's the only game they've ever heard of, and they realize they've got to buy 3 books, like a DM's guide, a monster manual, and a player's handbook. And I already, that makes me feel sick. Like, as an anti-capitalist environmentalist, that makes me feel sick. But like, they have to pick up 3 books, and so when I first started running D&D, it was 5th edition, and I'd been playing TTR a long time, and I picked up that book, and Christ, like, seriously? Like, I knew I was like TTRPG literate. I knew my mechanics. I knew that be a player and all that. And even I bounced off it multiple times. And my worry is that players pick it up and they see a rule book. And when you see a rule book, most people are like, well, I have to follow those rules. They don't do what you and your crew did, Matt, which was to like, here's the basic stuff and we're going to homebrew it, which I think is a great way. Yeah. More power to you. The rule set, for me, the rules need to be good, and they need to be tight, and they need to be useful, and they need to serve a purpose. But if they don't serve your purpose, tweak them, change them. We actively encourage people in the Mappa book. Like, if this isn't working, if you like 90% of it, but 10% working, change the 10%. So my concern is that people who have only ever heard of D&D buy it, realize that they don't like it, or they don't, but they don't realize they don't like D&D. They think they just don't like TTRPGs. And then we lose people who would be otherwise beautifully served by the fucking smorgasbord of incredible content.
I'm currently organising a Vampire Games Day in Derby, as part of Jackie Returns to Derby. And we've got 8 games of TTRPGs, and only 2 of them are D&D 5e rules.
Beautiful.
We've got Vampire the Masquerade, we've got Eat the Reich, we've got Stokerverse.
Eat the Reich is incredible. Oh my god, it's incredible.
So yeah, we kind of got we've got a diverse array. I just did not want 8 different tables playing variations of D&D, because that's not representative of either TTRPGs or Jackal's influence on role-playing games.
Absolutely. And I think so. One of the things, this is somewhat anecdotal, but like there is, it's based on like observation, but also data. We were presenting, myself and Jeremy, who's a developer at 3 Cell Studios. We were at Dragon Meet exhibiting Mappa in the end of November, and we had 2 sessions of Dragon Meet, for those of you who haven't been, it's the UK's largest dedicated TTRPG convention. I think it's been running like 30 years now. It was my first time there.
John Dodd's behind it, isn't he?
Yeah. It was my first time there as I loved every minute of it, absolutely loved it. But you can submit games to be played. There's like a open play space. So we submitted 2 Mappa Mundi sessions. We had friends of ours playing, and they opened up the tickets. One of the Mappa Mundi sold out within like 5 minutes. The next one, 3 of the 4 tickets went that evening, and then the next one went the next morning. So I was checking back to see if there were any more slots that we could book in for and stuff. The games that weren't selling out, or weren't selling out very quickly at all, were the D&D games. And there's an argument to be made that, okay, well, there's a transition between 5e and 5.5 or 2024, whatever we're calling it now. And maybe that had put people off. But like every other game system, especially the indies, were just selling out like that. And that's beautiful to see. But I'm also aware that I'm talking about Dragon Meet, which that's for like enfranchise, what we call enfranchise members, people who know TTRPG, or people who know TTRPG going along with
it's
them.
for people that play and know a lot about TTRPGs that started out playing D&D but now want something more.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's telling for me. I mean, I've got the D&D 5e books up on my shelf, and what you're saying about having rules for a reason is very telling, because I rarely, if ever, pick up the DM guide. I've never used it. I never ever use it. And I don't know if you have, Matt, but it's just like the rules in there are just not useful for the games I play.
Yeah, no, again, I just, basics. I have basics. I've had to skip through it. And
you don't need the DM guide.
Yeah.
The Monsters Manual is useful, but really all you need is the D&D Player's Guide, and you can wing the rest. And I mean, I'm kind of very much, I've been playing TTRPGs for 30 years, and I'm kind of got the point where I want a rules-light system, or better yet, I want a thematically appropriate rules-light system, basically where the rules themselves are embedded within the themes and story of the game.
So now, that is exactly the kind of designer that I try to be. And obviously, Pete, me and you, we met at UK Games Expo, and this is what I suppose this is what kind of attracted you to Mappa in the first place.
And also, what kind of really threw me, because I mean, you got zero combat. Now, for a game, I mean, a lot of story comes from conflict, not necessarily like physical altercations like fighting, but also any form of conflict, like drama is driven by conflict. I mean, one of the big things that the creator of Battlestar Galactica, what was his name again?
Name's escaping me.
Oh, okay, but anyway,
I'll Google it. Carry on, I'll Google it.
Thank you. Yeah, but he's the creator of Battlestar Galactica, and previously to that, he was one of the story writers for Star Trek: The Next Generation. And they're having a problem, like as in Star Trek, the Federation, everything is a utopia.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be, Starfleet is about
perfect.
Non-violence,
it is perfect civilization. We have gone beyond capitalism, which is great. But for the purposes of writing a dramatic story, when you live in a perfect society where everyone's happy, you can't have the drama that kind of drives the story. So it kind of just comes back. I was really fascinated by the fact that you've created a TTRPG, which is all about collaborative storytelling, but there is no fighting.
Glenn Larson.
I remember
Glenn Larson.
Yeah, Glenn Larson, that was it.
No, that was the original one. I'm talking about the remake.
Okay. You were talking about Star Trek. I thought you were talking about, the. Okay.
Jeez. We spoke about this at UKGE, though, right, Pete? Because there were a number of people that asked me a question. Well, right, they thought they'd got you on, like, oh well, all drama comes from conflict, and I was like, I agree with you. It does come from conflict. Conflict, or not all conflict, comes from hitting something with a sword.
Yes.
And I think I remember saying when we were talking last time on the podcast, the most boring resolution to conflict, ending it immediately because you've killed something. Conflict comes in Mappa Mundi. Conflict comes from its inner conflict. Am I doing the right thing? It's the desire to live up to values, or to do the thing that you've said you're going to do. But it also comes from the world around you, because Mappa Mundi is a zero combat system. That doesn't mean that people aren't fighting in the world around you. Just you are not fighting, and you've sworn an oath to do no harm. And it's one of the things I said to people a few times at UKGE is you're mistaking, because what some people said, well, if there's no combat, there's no jeopardy. And I was like, no, you are mistaking a lack of you are thinking, because you are not a source of jeopardy, that there is no jeopardy out in the world. And that's what Mappa Mundi's really trying to push thematically in its rules. It's
you against the environment.
And it's not even against the environment.
Yeah,
the environment is so big as to not consider you. You are as an individual.
Exactly.
You have very little impact, right? But it's so one of the biggest inspirations, in fact, probably the biggest inspiration for Mappa Mundi. And some people really get this. If you've played the game like I have, you'll get it. But a lot of people haven't. The biggest original inspiration for Mappa Mundi was Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding.
I was thinking that one, yeah.
Yeah. I am a Hideo gamer rather than I'm a video gamer, but anything that man does I've got time for, even if I don't necessarily love all of it, but I do love all of it.
What did you think of Sons of Liberty?
So, Sons of Metal Gear 2, loved it, absolutely loved it.
You know what?
Okay.
Because I've been having a bit of a Kojima fix by my computer when I've been playing CDs, because I still like CDs every now and again.
Yeah.
I've actually got the Sons of Liberty soundtrack right by my computer.
Love it.
And also as well, I have got Metal Gear 1 soundtrack as well here.
Oh wow! Is number 2 the one with Raiden in it? Is it Raiden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I
Raiden.
remember when that game came out, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, this like bear in mind, I'm not allowed to mention ages because I get in trouble with this." But a friend of mine who played Metal Gear Solid 2, he said it was the worst game he'd ever played, and I said, "Well, why? Why are you saying it's the worst game?" Because I love Metal Gear Solid 1. I remember having to literally take that from my cousin's house because he said to me, "Oh yeah, you can play it when I finish it." And I remember going around there another time, and it was just sitting on the shelf, and I went, "No, I'm gonna play." And I remember I played it through all in one night. I'd never, and I think I was 11 when I done that, which was not good because then I was going to. I finished the game at like 4 a.m. and I was going to school next morning, which was not, which is not great when you're about to do your year 6 sats and yeah.
But this is why one of the things I think is like Death Stranding. I think is the ultimate example of this game, but I think actually it weaves through all of the Metal Gear games. Now I never played Guns of the Patriots number 4 because I didn't have a PS3.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for the rumored remake. I'm waiting for that one. But I played the original Metal Gear game, Solid 1 and 2. Played Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 5. You know, done to death millions of times, and obviously then Death Stranding. Now,
what did you? Yeah.
I think that Death Stranding is the peak of Hideo Kojima's design work, and I know it's a very Marmite game, but then I've designed a Marmite game as well.
I think with Death Stranding, it was one of them ones that I had to go back to at another time because I love Kojima, but I remember that first time I just could not click with it. And then when it re-released about 2 years later with the director's cut, I went, "Do you know what? I'm going to sit down with this. I'm going to get through it." And I think I must have registered around about 95 hours on it. My
first playthrough. But what it is for me is like Kojima, especially in Death Stranding, the environment is not your enemy, but it is an antagonist. Like it's not you against the environment, but the environment is necessarily difficult to get through. And then when you think about like Metal Gear Solid 1 with the Shadow Moses base, it's a hostile environment. But it's hostile because you're not really supposed to be there. Metal Gear 3 is the prime example of this forest, but like
almost like learning to live with the environment rather than against it.
That's exactly what it is. So that's what Mappa Mundi is trying to do. So humanity as a species has a colossal, devastating effect on the environment. We know this, right? As a species, but as an individual, you have a very, very minor impact unless you're a bit taking private jets, 5 times a week or whatever. But like for most of us, for the vast majority of us, so what Mappa Mundi does is it puts you into a position, and again, this is where normal people, all of the games we make, and I'm currently actively at work on games 2, 3, and 4 of like the 3 sales, upcoming slate of games. And I've been writing number 2 today, but all of our games are normal people. We don't do elves and goblins and dwarves and stuff. People who are like, physically, naturally, by birth, different or stronger or smarter or whatever. Normal people. And so what Mappa Mundi is trying to do is that like the environment is both hostile and benevolent insofar as it's neutral. It's not an antagonist. It's not coming at you. It doesn't think about concern you. You are a speck of sand on the back of an elephant as far as...
That sounds very Cosmic Horror as well.
A little bit, but like actually I think like so Cosmic Horror looks at the existential dread of that situation. Like the idea that the earth is like an elder god insofar as it's so much larger and so far comprehension, and actually it has no comprehension of you whatsoever. But like I actually think that idea is quite comforting. Like the world is not against you, nor is it for you. It just is. It is its own thing. And so Mappa Mundi, obviously with its focus on monsters and creatures, particularly as a kind of manifestation of like Mappa Mundi is a game that's really focused on non-human personhood, non-human agency, so that these monsters and creatures, they're not unthinking beasts who are there just to be slaughtered so you can gain some more experience. They are living, thinking, sentient beings, even if that form of sentience is different to our own understanding of it, right? And so the environment is the same. That's the idea, that the environment around you is.
Have you watched The Rig at all?
I don't think so.
Worth a watch, because it's on Amazon Prime right now. It's first 2 seasons. And it's basically this crew on an oil rig in the North Sea are suddenly enshrouded in this fog.
Yeah.
And things start happening after they dig something up from about 300 billion years.
It sounds very cosmic horror.
It's good.
Very cosmic horror, but what you were saying about, Earth doesn't care, it kind of leans very much into that kind of almost trying to live in this new environment where it's not against you, it just is.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It just is, and like that has to be understood and respected on its own basis, right? So as like, I think this is one of the problems that humanity faces. Humanity is both too individualistic and it's not too collective enough in its behavior, but in its kind of political structures or whatever. But like, we think about ourselves as the species, as the dominant species, which we
Apex
are
predator,
on the planet, right? Yeah, we are. Yeah, but at the same time, we refuse to think bigger than ourselves, most people.
Yeah.
And so Mappa Mundi is like, these are questions, evidently these are questions that I'm very interested in, kind of personally, politically, socially, also as game design, is trying to, first and foremost, I want you to play a good, satisfying, enjoyable game, right? That's
what do you mean by good? When you say
this is the
good
thing. So I want someone to come away and be like, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed it. It worked. It worked. I had a good experience. Whatever experience I wanted, I got from it. Or maybe, or like I didn't get the experience just because actually it's the choice of game rather than the game itself. That's the number one job of a game, to design good, enjoyable games. But like, I also want those games because play. Like the way we play and the way we spend our leisure time is like intensely political. Like the things you choose to do with your free time are intensely political choices. And as a consequence, like I want my games to make you feel something or think something a different way, put you into a different position. Like put you into a position that makes you question your actual life and your positionality in your actual life, or even to just reinforce, I see you and I feel the same way, or I feel a similar way, and you're not on your own. And I think Mappa has achieved that. Obviously, once it gets out into the wider world, we'll start to kind of learn that more. But it's one of the things that's been it's really reassuring, considering we're coming up to Kickstarter. It's beautiful how much Mappa has resonated with people, with big chunks of the TTRPG community. People are like, oh my god, this is like, I can't believe someone's made this game, or I played it. The experiences and the joy, but also the profoundness of people are getting from something that I put down.
And there's something to be said for education, like the games that
Oh, Pete, I think you've gone on mute.
Yeah, I think you're muted.
Back.
Yeah, I was going to say, there seems to be a bit of I'm not sure if you've got a noise gate on or something, George, because every now and again you're sort of you're cutting out. So you'll say something and your mouth will start going and then nothing else will come.
What you don't realise is that he is just taking breaks in between. It's just like, he's actually dubbed. Someone else is doing George's voice. You don't realise it, but yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
okay.
we can indeed.
Yeah. Okay, so there's something to be said about the role of TTRPGs in education, where you're kind of extolling, not to say political values, but using them to educate, like different ways of thinking, raising awareness of issues. And for example, I mentioned this before about a local school. They teach the rules of politics. and the rules of Parliament by role-playing a session of Parliament.
Mhm.
Each child's given a different role. You've got leader of the opposition, the Prime Minister, the Speaker of the House, the Home Secretary, the Shadow Chancellor. And they don't sit there and learn, right, this is what you're doing. This like these two different rules. These are your kind of different subjects, and they learn the process of Parliament.
Yeah.
And do that far better than just sitting there at a desk
Mhm.
and be told it. And the kind of this kind of Mappa Mundi element of where it's kind of like you explore the kind of environmental issues and like kind of our role in protecting the environment. And
Yeah,
how
I
we
mean,
can.
it's for me, it's a case. So there's people out there, and I know they're not going to have any interest in Mappa anyway, which makes me happy. But keep politics out of games, why can't we just play? Like, leave your politics out of the games. And like, it's such a bullshit thing to say anyway. Nothing. These are people who are playing like. They're playing 40k, and like they're literally playing with like a galactic empire.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, it was Thomas Mann who said everything is political.
But that's my point. You can't.
Yeah.
You can. No one
If
can
you
write
remove,
something or
if you
speak
remove politics from
something.
the game, that is inherently political.
Yeah. You
But even
cannot
from-
read something, write something, create something, talk about something, understand or enjoy something without it being political. Like, it's not possible. And so when people are like, leave your politics out of the games, I've not written a manifesto in Mappa.
Yeah.
I could have done, but I didn't. And
The best bit I
like,
heard
the game itself is testament to these beliefs.
Yeah.
The best thing I heard was like someone once said the Expanse isn't political.
The Expanse isn't political.
I was thinking,
Who said that? Someone that's not watched The Expanse?
really?
someone who's completely missed the point.
Yeah.
You missed a lot of
But even
points there.
even like when you were talking about like Kojima, because a lot of these games have got a lot of political undertones
Yeah,
as well.
And overtones, like
and
everything is
overtones. Yeah,
politics.
but that's what I mean. But it's like
Incredibly anti-war. Incredibly.
yeah, but it's when you dig into the details as well, like like talking about the actual Metal Gear projects, and not just that that there's a group of terrorists that want to unleash it, but it's also saying that this weapon is not wanting to be prevented. Other countries, other powers actually want it.
Yeah.
And then even in the second game, they go, well, actually, look, there's now a bidding war for a Metal Gear. They're and it's then a bit of like the world is trying to get this weapon. No one's trying to necessarily stop the weapon. And even as the game goes on, when you're in the second game, when you're in Arsenal gear as well, because it's like not only have they just gone, oh yeah, well the problem's a bit bigger now. Okay, why is it one Metal Gear? No, it's 25 of the buggers. Yeah, it's like, that's great. But then this, and that's it. That was going like from the idea of a nuclear war in the first game to mass escalation in the second, and then just and then like Death Stranding probably felt more relevant after 2019, after its release date, because of the pandemic. Because
I mean, I didn't play it. I didn't play it for the first time until 20. Like, I played I'd been following it for years, but I hadn't played it. And then I played it like Christmas 22 into 23. And just like this is the thing. And so like those kinds of people who are like, keep your politics out of my games. Like, all right, fine. You go do what you want. Go over there into the corner, do what you want. Carry on living the way you live. But we all know what those people's politics are.
Like, yeah, exactly.
I don't want them. Don't need them. I'm not. The games I design, they're not going to like. Fine by me.
But even Death Stranding, that's a lot about. It talks a lot about the world that's obviously been, manipulated, altered. The world has become something that can't be controlled. But at the same time, there are still powers that are trying to control it. You have got like a version of the US government that are trying to now not only look after the US, but trying to look after the world. So the idea of making these connections, trying to bring the world back together, is in one way, at first it's seen as like, we're trying to rebuild civilization, but all they are trying to do is trying to take control.
Or return civilization to how it was. I mean, if you look at The Last Ship, that TV series about like a US warship. That was one of the last remaining nuclear weapon carriers. That became basically, it became very political, as in basically the US government was trying to re-exert its authority once more on the world stage. And I mean, the first season was pretty good, and I kind of started bouncing off the second season, when it was less about the mystery about what's happening, what's going on, what's the world going on, to, nation state building. And it's like, come on, I kind of like the idea where you can explore this world when about converting the world was not something that interested me that much. And also it didn't have the scientist. That was really cute. Because
yes, because obviously that was the that important part. Yeah,
no, she was a really cool actress.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? Joe, I was so into the story; it was really getting to me. Oh, but that cutie went. I was like, no, I've lost it.
Boobies.
She's really good. Just give me a sec. I'm gonna completely killing this. Great. This is great radio, just kind of.
We're all on our own devices trying to find out something.
She's been in loads of stuff, and again, I'm actually killing the sound.
Talking about great radio on a complete tangent. They're nothing, completely nothing to do with politics or anything like that. But my TikTok feed is consistently now a thing called Brooke and Jubal in the morning, and it's basically
Rona Mitra. I'm very sorry, Rona Mitra.
There you go.
She was fantastic actress. She did loads of stunts and kicks ass, and it's really cool. So watch it.
There you go.
Watch the first season. I'm very sorry for butting in like that, Matt.
No, all good. It has zero relevance to any of the conversation we just had. But you were talking about great radio, and it just popped into my head, and it's just like it's just a little funny anecdote. But it's just literally all it is this. It's this radio program that happened like 5-6 years ago, and welcome Cheesemaker, hello, thank you, and it's now being, I'm not sure if you've got TikTok, but basically have all these people steal other people's videos and they place games over the top of them and have the audio in the background and stuff like that. So it's basically this. My feed is just basically these things, and it's called a second date update, and it's basically they phone up, people email in, say I had a date, they haven't phoned me back, can you find out why? And it's definitely fake. It's definitely staged in some way, shape, or form. But my God, man, I just can't get enough of that shit. It's just all over my TikTok. I hate myself. I hate myself for it because it's just there. But it's just
so you should.
Yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad because it's so trashy. It's so bad. So I think I try to think of myself as a bit more of an intellectual person, but it's so trashy.
You watched Jerry Springer back in the day, didn't you, Matt?
Do you watch the documentary about Jerry Springer? It's on Netflix. Have you watched that one?
I've not seen it yet.
Yeah, it's quite good. It's really good, and it's just like, it's about the producers and what they had to go through to get people on that show, and they would rile them up and they get them really angry, and it got all this stuff to the point like where some fucking guy killed his wife, and because of it and stuff, and it just like they literally, and it got to the point, one of the guys just quit in the end because he just couldn't hack it anymore and stuff, and it was just like it was all about Jerry Springer and how he was sort of like, he wasn't really like, he was a really respectable, he used to be a mayor, and he was a really
he was a mayor of Cincinnati.
Yeah, he was a mayor, he was really good. And then he was like, he just wanted the truth, and then he wasn't really told about this, and then it was like, started getting really big, and it was bigger than Oprah. It's like, did he have any sort of like, did he know about some of the stuff that was happening and stuff? And they were just encouraging these rednecks to come on and fight, just like because fighting was what got them ratings and stuff.
Well, I remember watching a couple of things about Jeremy Kyle recently, because they were saying that there was some unconfirmed reports that some of the producers wanted to try and replicate what Jerry Springer had. And, for a time, the show was incredibly popular. There was a lot of things that you'd watch and you'd be like, nah, that don't seem true. That don't seem believable. You see these old clips from Jerry Springer, you're like, how the hell would anyone believe this to be, real life America? But then you know, you look at some of the stuff from mid to late 2010s from Jeremy Kyle, you go, no, you wouldn't have people like that. And then, you know, again, that's one that ended up in tragedy. That was one that, because where apparently producers were pushing so much for, you know, for a shock value, for something that's going to stand out for ratings, any care about the people that was going on that show just went out the window. And and I think that's
to tie this back into game design.
Yeah, there we go. We'll bring it back. We'll bring it back. Dragging it back from Joe's.
But I think that there's an interesting point to be made here, that game designers have a duty of care to the audience that they are catering to. Like, you know, we use, again, and there's a whole section of the TTRPG community who don't like this, but like we have safety tools in Mappa Mundi that are really important, and you know,
content warnings.
We have content warnings. Yeah. Like we say, you know, games of Mappa Mundi is a non-combat game. You know, stories might involve abuse to animals, people, like hunting narratives, like narratives of diasporas and refugees and all these kinds of things. And it's a paragraph of things that Mappa Mundi games might cover, just so you know. And you don't have to do them. Like if you're running games, you don't have to have any of that stuff in there, but it might come up. And I think, so obviously I'm in a position where like, I'm not only a designer, but a publisher. And so I feel like I have a double duty of responsibility to not only my audience and my players, the people that buy our products and run our games, but also to the wider TTRPG that I want to be making games, even if they're difficult subject matter, that they're not gratuitous. We're using things intentionally, and I think intention is so important in games, and in any form of art, you know, any form of cultural production or art, you know, creativity. If you're going to be using something that's difficult, uncomfortable, dangerous, upsetting, do it intentionally. Don't just throw it in there because you're trying to be edgy or whatever. Do something intentionally.
That reminds me a lot of This War of Mine.
Yeah, perfect example.
Yeah. Basically, like, because you're trying to survive in a war zone and you have to make some horrific decisions to the point where I stopped playing it because I could not make them.
I hate hard decisions, man. Because I have a massive guilt. I have a massive guilt complex when it comes to stuff like that, and you know, just.
But then I used to really love the Telltale Walking Dead games, because they had some very big like moral choices and things you were making, and like, you know, you might do something in the first part that may not necessarily come back to you until like part 4 or part 5, and then, you know, you're living with them choices. And because where you sort of go for it in spells, and because the choices you make are affecting the people around you, the story that's being told, you do get attached. And you know, sometimes you're almost like hating yourself for what you've done, and you're like, but
and
it's
I
only
think
a game.
This is really important, right? Like, the art should be both comforting and confronting. Ideally in equal measure, but some of the things you do should put people into horrible choices. Actually, one of the things, like, I can't remember who said it. I think it was at Dragon. Someone came up and was like, oh, you know, I was trying to get my partner to play D&D, and she was just like, I'm sick of games that make me kill the dog. And she, using that as a metaphor.
Yeah.
I don't want to play a game where I have to make that, where I'm not even, where I'm forced to make that choice. And so, again, what Mappa Mundi is trying to do is show you something. There are hunters and taxidermists in this world. And it's a huge taboo, but there are still people that do it, because not everyone has the same kind of moral position, even in a world where that's the dominant moral position. And, you know, how do you deal with that? Like, that's a good confrontation, but it needs to be in the framework where the game has provided you the safety tools and a space in which you can explore difficult, confronting ideas. at your own pace, at your own, you can dictate, you can determine how they're going. But there's huge value in that kind of confrontational artwork and creation as well.
I mean, it was telling that when I ran a game of D&D for my family, I mean, like my wife and two of my older children. So they were about 4 or 5 years ago now. So 8 and 12, and we came across a rust monster.
I think you told me about this last time. Actually,
they didn't want to kill it.
Yeah,
because it wasn't being antagonist. It was hungry.
Yeah.
So the kid's like, so, well, how we got to deal with this kind of animal. I never said you have to kill it, you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's there. So how do you get it? And they basically worked out, right, we've got to use some of our money. So use some of the copper and to lure out the first one said, yeah, you done it, you solved it. You use your own and thought, yeah, that deserves just as much XP for if you want to, or like a level for original thinking.
Yeah, well,
you resolve the issue.
Deal with the monster, right? And you dealt with it.
Yeah. So I was really impressed with that. But like, there's a lot. The way the adventure was written was, these are the stats. This is armor class. This is how it attacks. Never once threw dice. Never once threw dice.
That's the thing with D&D, right? As soon as you present a stat,
it's an expectation.
If the only tool you can use is a hammer, the whole right,
I know quite a few times that several designers and developers will not include stats for characters because the stats are there, the players think they can kill it. And when no, we don't want that. These are characters that the players will interact with, not kill. And it's just really. And another time, this was actually one April Fool's joke. The developers of Vampire the Masquerade released the stats for Kane, the first vampire.
So and you could kill him.
Yeah, the best bit was though it was just 10 dots out of 10, and the rules like you lose. That was the rule. Anything you lose, he's Kane. And yeah, just that they were just having. But it just made a very big point. Like, if we set out the stats for this character, someone's going to try and go up.
Yeah, someone's going to try and fight him.
Yeah. And so, but like actually, there's like there has been expectation. I think now people like yourself and others are kind of looking at other approaches that conflict does not always have to be resolved with combat. There's other ways to resolve a situation that does not devolve into combat.
Yeah, and just more interesting ways as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was at a LARP week last Sunday. First one I've been to for Vampire the Masquerade for quite a few years. And, basically, it was a Lyceum. It was purely social. Not once did anyone in the Lyceum, in the building where the game was taking place, go into conflict with each other, as in, right, I'm going to try and do this against you. It was purely a social situation, and it was great. We had such a laugh. I was there, I saw this NPC, usher, facilitator, and I was basically meant to bring people up and, just introduce them to the room and say, right, and then bring up some more people. And like this guy goes, right, I'm Frank the fucking butcher. He's playing this big, burly brew jar. I'm like, right, sir, is that as in you are a butcher, as in you are a butcher that fucks, or are you a butcher someone that fucks butchers? Could you clarify that, please? Is it hyphenated? And it's just purely role play, like that one's bounced off each other. And half the time, it's like again playing like this birdie guy. Right, you look here. Well, all the time we're trying to stop ourselves from pissing ourselves laughing.
My God, could you imagine that? That's like his biography. Yeah, I fuck butchers and no one else. that's my shiz.
But again, like having these situations where combat is not an option means you have to think. I mean, I'm just designing a LARP. It's going to be held in Alveston Castle in October, a vampire LARP. And again, Alveston Castle is a listed building. It's a 16th century building, and we've got access to the halls inside. Beautiful Gothic architecture. Yeah, I'm not going to let anyone do combat in that. No, not a chance. Right, out of character? No, because I do not want to have to deal with like what happens if you miss something and hit it. No.
Fireball!
Property,
Oh shit!
property damage, not worth it.
Exactly. So again, the in-character reason is right. This is like Elysium. This is you are playing vampires, hundreds of years old. It's you do not demean yourself with violence.
You're above this.
Exactly. So how do you resolve your differences when you cannot? Because I will hit you with. I'll take it outside, then hit you. You cannot rely on combat, and so it's you have to kind of reinforce it, and it does introduce some drama, and that's much more exciting than just rolling some dice here. I hit it for D6 damage.
Yeah, it's a habit you, especially if you come from a D&D background, it's a habit you sort of need to get yourself out of. Like I played D&D from 2nd edition, for the red book with the red box and stuff like that. So I'm an 80s kid, but it's like combat is in all war. Like I like historical war games and things like that. So combat's being entrenched in my DNA for forever. And I still enjoy war games. Me and my brother are currently playing Total War Warhammer 3 multiplayer online and stuff. So I still enjoy it, but I got sort of pushed into, and I've probably talked about it before, but we got pushed into playing Call of Cthulhu. I loved it. And there was there was a really very fleeting, brief combat resolution in a vague way in that. But apart from that, I was an old soldier who couldn't do very much anyway.
The scale of what you're facing in Call of Cthulhu. You don't want to fight.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to fight because you're squishy and you're going to die. It's all about trying to find stuff out and then knock them mad. And I really enjoyed it. Like it completely flipped my mind on how games should be, because it was there wasn't really any, and I wasn't really bothered by the fact that there wasn't any combat. It was literally just a case of I'm trying to figure out what's happening, and I'm trying not to go mad at the same time. And yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it, and it made me.
When I was playing Draken in the campaign, Draken was a big, burly barbarian, so combat was his thing. So I kind of added the limiting factor of like he's had more code, but also I had the most fun when he wasn't using an axe.
Yeah, he was punching sharks.
Punching sharks. I stick them. Again, I like the improvised nature of using the environment to fight. So basically, I picked up a table and staked a vampire with it. So just
That'll do it. That'll do it.
I rolled in that 20. Right, I stick him with pick up table. But it's just it's invented the imagination, used the environment, and just role playing out the idea where you're not busy. Again, I pick up an axe, I hit it because that gets repetition. I think Mac told me off once or twice for using rage way too many times.
I'm raging. Oh boy, of course he's raging.
Well, yeah, it's a barbarian. What's a barbarian going to do? No, smoke a piece of pipe. Probably not.
So we'd throw in stuff to stop. We threw in we gave him a cursed axe, which the point where he couldn't. That axe was everything that he didn't want to be parted from this axe, to the point that he would be somewhat addicted to this sort of this item and stuff. And when he lost it, he went fucking mad. And we threw in things like that to sort of kind of switch things up, so it wasn't just a case of I hit it with my axe. It was just sort of like
Yeah, but again, like having situations where it's not just rolling dice with a weapon, you have to encourages the player to look at the game differently. And
I just want you to think. Do you know what
exactly.
I mean?
They have to think a second and they determine, right, okay, this is the environment, this is where I'm at, what can I do?
Yeah, and if you're just waiting for your turn to come around in combat all the time, you're disengaged from the game. You're not. You're alienated from it by the game itself, and like that's a sad state of affairs. I think you've got together with your friends and you're trying to build this world and interact with this world, and you just switch off because you can.
Yeah. It was interesting to note how the role of netrunners and cyber jockeys in Cyberpunk and Shadowrun, have gone where before it was like a player sitting in like it was like a character sitting in a different room in the net, which was a fair, fundamental realistic, representation of the internet. Was user networks go over there, but their characters are distant from the other players because they're in the net, and but there's no interaction between them.
Mhm.
Now you kind of got localized cyber jockeys where basically use that their kind of wireless
Yeah.
gene to tap into the local networks. Same with like in Cyberpunk, they've kind of got these local regional networks out there that they no longer can the net runner sit behind. He has to go with the rest of the team and has to be part of that team because otherwise you kind of got that players separated out from each other, not really
And
engaging.
that's a thematic solution to a
Exactly.
design problem, and that is the joy for me. That's the joy of game design, right? The joy is that I get to come up with these, and I'm a theme first designer. I come up with concept, and then I have mechanics, make mechanics.
But that's what
make
you want.
mechanics fix. So yeah,
You want kind of theme to define mechanics, and mechanics also because that reinforces good storytelling.
Yeah, that's me. So it starts off. I start off. It's like a pendulum. Right? Start off with the concept, and once I've got the concept, I then swing over to mechanics and make mechanics that fit the theme, and then eventually over time
it balances out.
It comes down to the pendulum comes to rest. You've got thematic mechanics. That's where I like to end up.
Okay. You're one of these people, George, who makes me want to sort of kind of carry on because there's about 3 or 4 subjects that I want to talk to you about, but I know it will last a very long time.
I'll come back on next week, mate.
My definitely, because my missus is wandering around, wants me to watch. We're watching Altered Carbon again. She's not seen it, so we're sort of going through it. Yeah,
first season great, second season,
yeah, I thought it was all right, but yeah, so we're going through that and stuff. But she's sort of getting a bit impatient, so I need to sort of potentially call it soon.
Let me know what she thinks about the more human than human cover.
Oh right, yeah, okay, yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, so Mappa Mundi is going to be released February
4th. Kickstarter date starts.
February 4th.
We will share that when it's announced, and we'll tag our podcast to this as well.
Yep, and then come back on again, tell us how successful it was, and
and then I can finally start revealing. I can reveal game number 2 then.
Yeah.
Once Mappa is funded, then I can reveal game number 2.
Awesome. Okay, so before we go, we've got a new segment for 2025. Jonjo, it's pub quiz time.
It is. Pub quiz with a difference, because I don't think I could get away with doing a geeky round for every one. But for here, it works out nicely. So there are a couple of carryover rounds from the other week because
how many rounds have you got lined up, Jonjo?
I've got 4. Well, I've got 4 rounds lined up for tonight, but I have actually got about another 10 or so written up for future.
Okay, nice. Dedication.
Right, so
preparation.
So your rounds tonight you can pick from. They will be on. So the carryovers, I've got a Marvel and Dragon Ball Z, and also I have got a round on Star Trek and a round on Alien. Yep. So I think I'm going to have to let Pete go first because he's.
Wait! You got to get the guests go first, surely.
Pete's already called it.
Go for Alien. Go
Let's
for
Alien. Goes for
Alien,
then he's buggered.
Yeah, I'd have picked Star Trek rather than Alien.
Oh, Star Trek. All right. Okay. Let's go with you then, George. Let's do Star Trek then, if you've had. Right. Here we go. Question number 1. It's only 3 questions, so it's fine. It's not not too taxing because I think some of us want to go a bit.
What you don't know about me, Jonjo, is I fucking love a quiz.
So do I.
I fucking love a quiz.
I recently started doing the pub quiz again, hosting it, and do you know what? I've really found my love for it again.
Yeah,
so
absolutely love it. Hit me with it.
The shit I find out and remember is so bad. Right, so here we go then. Question number 1 on Star Trek. In which film did Leonard Nimoy make his final appearance as Spock?
Ooh.
The second J.J. Abrams one. Which is
Into the Darkness?
Into
Star
Darkness.
Trek Into Darkness, yeah.
Yeah.
I will take the second J.J. Abrams one because that is it, yep. The USS Cerritos is the main setting to which Star Trek series? USS Cerritos.
Is it Lower Decks?
It is Lower Decks. Well done.
Yeah, there we go.
Right. And then number 3, an episode of The Next Generation titled Descent features a poker game being played by Albert Einstein, Sir Isaac Newton, and which theoretical physicist playing himself?
All right, Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, Stephen Hawking. 3 for 3.
I love a quiz, boys. Love a quiz.
For some reason, I had Bill Nye in there, but I say
Bill Nye the Science. Yeah. Oh, that would have been brilliant. Okay, so Pete's already called Alien. I don't think he's going to change his mind. Right, Pete. I think these are quite bread and butter questions, actually, but I don't know. We'll see. Question number 1. In which year did the first Alien film release in cinemas?
1979.
1979. Bang on. Question number 2. Which 2004 film did Guillermo del Toro turn down to instead direct Hellboy?
What year was it, sorry?
2004.
Which film did he turn down to direct Hellboy? I'm guessing it would be... Ooh.
I think I might know this.
Yeah, I think I know it as well.
I don't know, actually.
Is it Alien Requiem? Is it Alien Requiem?
Where is it?
The first Alien vs Predator. He apparently got offered that, and when Hellboy came up to his table, he went, "Actually, I want to do that instead."
Yeah, I'd take Hellboy over Alien v Predator any day.
Because Alien vs Predator eventually went to was it Paul W.S. Anderson?
Paul W.S. Anderson, yeah. I liked it. I like it.
I like it.
Because it's based on Hunter's Planet, and the comic, the sort of graphic novel is so much better, and it's just like
I like how you saw the sheer scale of the Alien Queen against the Predator and the humans. I mean, Aliens is great. Do not get me wrong, but you never fully appreciate the sheer size of the Alien Queen compared to the humans. Anyway,
but then I always thought because 2000s was like the year of just the matchup, because the year before that was Freddy vs Jason, which was excellent.
What year was Alien Requiem then? What was Alien?
2007.
Right. Okay,
I managed about half an hour before I had to switch that off.
It's not a good film at all. Okay, question number 3. What is the name of the android played by Michael Fassbender in Prometheus and Alien Covenant? David, yes. And say, for a bonus point, what's the name of the android that he also plays in Covenant? I've offered him a bonus point. I should have done that.
Because this throws off the whole numbering. No, don't know.
Walter.
Yes. Walter, thank you. I use W. Yeah, because and in Aliens Ash, in Aliens it's Bishop.
Yeah.
Then C, there's a C.
There is a C. There's always a C.
Paul. And then David. So you got the numbering essentially not alphabetical.
Yeah, almost. And then he just thinks, I can't think of anyone for E. I'll just go Walter. All right. So Matt, you are in the envious position of picking either Marvel or Dragon Ball Z.
Well, I know nothing about Dragon Ball Z, so it's going to have to be Marvel.
Okay, right. Here we go then. Question number 1 on Marvel. Who voices the female Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
Oh God, I have no idea. I've seen it.
Oh, I think Pete had I don't know.
I know it, but no. Go ahead.
No guesses at all. No wild stabs in the dark.
No.
Michelle Yeoh. She's in everything right now.
Yes, we know you like Michelle Yeoh. Yes. No. Catherine Hahn
has been proved.
Catherine Hahn, really? Okay.
Catherine Hahn. Catherine Hahn was the.
He played Agatha.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yes.
What you don't know is that she was actually just Agatha, but
Okay.
Right. Question number 2. What was the first MCU film to star Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow?
Oh. Right. Let's have a think about this. No, 1 minute. Go away, Pete. Go away.
Well, to be fair, Matt, you can't win anyway. But you know,
I want to say, right, in Thor there is Hawkeye. Is she in Thor?
Pete, no help.
Shit. Fuck! I should know this. What's going to be her first one? So let's see. She's not in, unless I've completely missed it. She's not in Iron Man. She's not in the post-credit scene because it's Nick Fury.
Oh, is it? Or was it Nick Fury in disguise? Or was it someone in disguise of Nick Fury?
So it's not Thor. Yeah, there's definitely Hawkeye because he's in the bit where he's sort of looking over the hammer. Right, what do we got next? Then we've got.
That's going to wander off.
We're going to be here a long time if he's going to go through everything.
Okay, yeah, I can't get it off the top of my head. I'm going to kill myself. It's going to be.
Well, just name a film. Go on, name a film.
First Avengers. First Avenger.
No. Her first appearance, mate. Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2.
What's she in Iron Man? Where's she in Iron Man?
Yes, she was.
Yes, because she was a double agent for Nick Fury. She was keeping tabs on Tony Stark.
Yes, she was.
And then she beats up Happy Hogan.
She does. Yes. Okay.
Right, Matt. This is the last one. This is very tricky, but this is. But this is a recent one. In Deadpool and Wolverine, Cassandra Nova mentions she has a box set of which Irish singer?
Oh God, Sinead O'Connor.
No.
Oh fuck.
Any guesses from anyone?
Enya.
Oh, it is Enya.
Yes.
Because
it's going to be one of two. I got 0 points. Oh no, the shame of it all. The shame of it all. Did you know what's annoying? Because I literally watched Deadpool and Wolverine about, a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah, I rewatched it again a little while ago. I still really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be one of them things that it will lose its quality. I think in the next few years, but for now, it's still great.
Cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah. Cool.
Right. So that is it. So tonight's winner with a grand total of 3 of 3.
George,
you've
well,
done it.
Congratulations.
And do you know what, Pete? You could have had 3 points if you'd got the other Android. I was possibly, but I could. But Matt, there was no way I could give you any extra credit because you didn't get anything.
I know it was horrendous. But there you go, horrendous. You could have gone. I want something about, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or Warhammer.
I've done Lord of the Rings
history
before, but
I
you
could
weren't quick enough.
History questions, maybe. There you go.
Well, technically, what about history? Because Iron Man 2 is from like 15 years ago.
Oh God! Don't make me feel
Yeah,
old.
it is
I don't make me feel
2010.
old, man. There was what was
Jesus,
it? Somebody put something on. It's like that was 30 years ago, and I was like, you shut your mouth. You
shut your damn mouth.
You shut your damn mouth. 30 years
we
ago.
was talking about the PlayStation 2 a little while ago.
That's it. It was the PlayStation when somebody put a meme, and it's like that's a classic system now. I was like, no.
But we were saying about the Grand Theft Auto game Vice City, and they was going, oh yeah, that was 2002. I went, holy shit, it was.
Yeah. It's like Vice City is closer to the period in which it's set in the 80s when it was released in 2002 than we are now.
Yeah, that's horrifying.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And so there was another thing that was about like classic rock and stuff, and I still think about some of the music I was listening to in the 2000s and stuff, and it being sort of like, contemporary, and it's just like it's 24 years, it's 20 odd years ago now.
Music in the 90s was the best.
Yeah.
One of my students wrote an essay for me that said in the late 1900s. And I was like,
"Fuck you!"
Yeah, in the late 1900s, when I was born.
Yeah. Oh God.
It's like fail. Disappointed.
Yeah. There you go. But yeah. George, you're welcome on anytime. Yeah, you're one of those guests. I think we could probably go on for a very long time, but I've got my marching orders, unfortunately. But by all means, please do come back on again. Let us know how it goes, even if you just want to talk about other stuff. And I'm sure
if we do, I was just gonna say, if we do get George back on, I'll need to make sure I've got I don't know if necessarily a Metal Gear Solid round, but I'll definitely get a Hideo Kojima round written up for you.
Yes.
that'll be fun. That'll be fun to see.
Oh God. Okay. But yeah. So February. Sorry, date again. Sorry, February.
February 4th.
February 4th. For the Mappa Mundi Kickstarter. Please check it out. We'll have a link for it. Have you got a preview page up yet, by the way, for it?
We do have a preview page. I'll get the link over to you.
Yeah, so we'll stick that on there as well. But brilliant. I hope it goes well for you. We'll keep an eye on it when it goes live. Fingers crossed. I've no doubt it's gonna hit its funding and Thanks, more. Looking forward to hearing what the next game's going to be. But for tonight, I've been Matt Geary. With me has been Peter Ellison.
Good night, everyone.
Jonjo Cosgrove.
Take care, everybody.
And George from Three Seals Studios.
Big love, everyone. Thank you.
Night, bye.
Bye.